We're already almost finished up with the responsive design for the home page. We've got just a couple components left, so let's keep the ball rolling and in this video knock out the responsive design for our marketing buttons. Alright, so just as we've done before, we'll come on down and we'll just start resizing the screen and see how things work out. So if I go ahead, start resizing the screen. So one thing that we'll note right here, so the buttons aren't quite touching, they're just pretty close, but since we have the style for them to grow on hover, you can see that they actually do end up overlapping each other, which I don't think is a look that we want. So let's go ahead and let's check. Yep, we've still got our tabs, so we are at the large breakpoint here. So we'll go ahead and let's find our marketing buttons.js. And here with our button class is where we're setting the height and the width for these. So let's come under our hover style and add the theme.breakpoints.down, this time for large. And we'll go ahead, open that up, and we'll give it a height of 40 rem and a width of 40 rem. So we can go ahead and save that. And now those are shrunk down pretty nicely. But if I go ahead and keep shrinking them, you see that they still are going to get pretty close to each other here. So one thing that we could do to avoid this is just to give them some margin all the way around so that they won't ever get that close. And that'll stop them from getting close enough to where they would overlap on hover. So we'll just give them a margin of 3 rem. If we save that, now that's going to break to a column layout because they get so close. You can see now, see the distance between them, and boom, they break, and they're never going to get too close to each other now to interfere with the hover style. So now let's keep shrinking it down, and it's going to jump to being stacked on top of each other. So that's going to look really nice. Keep shrinking it down till about here, and it looks like about here. This is probably, they still are probably a little too big now for this screen size, so we could go ahead and reduce their size a little bit. But this is actually, we're already here at the medium breakpoint. We can tell because this is all centered up. But that happened all the way up here. So everything's fine until we're about here. So that's probably our small breakpoint. So let's go ahead and we'll add the theme.breakpoints.down for small. And we'll go ahead and give it a height of 30 rem and a width of 30 rem as well. Then we can go ahead, save that, and flip on over, and we'll see them shrink, and I think that's much more appropriate, except for now our text is too large, and the icons look a little bit too large as well. So we can solve that easily. Let's go ahead and we will give our image here wrapping the button icon, we'll give it a class name, since it's an HTML element, of classes.icon. And then for our typography component wrapping the label, we'll give it the classes prop with the root of this typography component, and we'll give it classes.label. So then we can come up and create the icon class and the label class. And we'll just give our icon for the theme.breakpoints.down for small. We'll give it a height of 8 rem and a width of 8 rem just to reduce that. So we can go ahead and save that and see that looks much better. And then for our label, let's give it the theme.breakpoints.down for small as well. But this time we'll change it to a font size of 2.75 rem. And if we save that, then, whoops, must have forgot something. Oh, I accidentally used brackets here instead of braces. Go ahead and open this up. Get rid of those extra parentheses it inserted. There we go. Go ahead and save that. And now you see we've got much more appropriate sized buttons. So I'll go ahead and shrink that all the way down. And that looks pretty good, except for on hover, that's then going to still be just a little bit too large. So let's go ahead and we'll shrink the buttons down one more time. So here for our button class, underneath the small breakpoint, we'll give it a theme.breakpoints.down for extra small. And we'll go ahead and give this a height of just 25 rem and a width of 25 rem as well. So now if we save this, flip on over, we see we've got nice small buttons for our extra small screen size, and on hover, they're not going to exceed the width. So now if I scroll down, you can see that actually our call to action, it looks like our icon is perfectly within the bounds here, and our text is within the bounds as well, although it's not aligned correctly, but we'll fix that in the next video. But, so we would expect, because this component is within all the bounds, that we shouldn't have any overflow problems or any horizontal scrolling. But we actually can see that is the case. You see, we do have this extra white space on the edge of our footer, which means that something along here is actually causing an overflow. Even though it looks like everything is perfectly within bounds, something is actually causing an overflow and is causing this horizontal scrolling. So one technique that I use whenever I'm really having trouble figuring out what component or what style is causing the overflow, one thing I like to do, we can go to index.js, I like to just start removing components and see which one makes everything snap to normal. So if I go ahead and remove the call to action and save, flip on over, our call to action is gone, but that extra space isn't. The extra space is still there, so something else must be causing the overflow. So we'll go ahead and put that back. Let's try the marketing buttons and save. Now our call to action's back, our marketing buttons are gone, and the overflow is still persisting. So we'll put the marketing buttons back, remove featured products, and save. Now we've got our marketing buttons, but no featured products, and we still have that pesky overflow. So let's go ahead, put that back. Now let's remove our promotional products and save. Oh, and check that out. Now the page has snapped back to alignment like we would expect, and we're no longer being overflowed. So it looks like the problem must be in our promotional products. So let's go ahead and save and put it back. So that's a really helpful technique that you should keep in mind when you're working on your own products. So let's go ahead and inspect the element here on our promotional products and make sure that we get down to the extra small breakpoint. Let's go ahead and just by hovering over it here, if we hover over that, check it out. You can see that the blue box is extending into that extra space. So this is what is causing the overflow. So that's actually coming from the margin that we're using to space out our secondary or the background images here. So if we reduce that margin, that should make it so we're no longer exceeding the width of our screen and the overflow should go away. So let's go ahead and head on over to promotional products real quick. And where we're setting our space here, the space class with our margin, let's actually change the margin from 10 rem to 8 rem, 10, and then 8. So that'll reduce the left and the right. If we go ahead and save that, you can see it's almost gone. If we scroll up to our small breakpoint, which is what we just edited it for, then the overflow is actually totally gone. If I go ahead and undo that, you can see that it actually was persisting at the small breakpoint as well. So go ahead and redo that change and save, and it goes away. But when we shrink down to extra small, we're seeing that it still appears. If we shrink down to extra small, it's still there. So let's go ahead, I'll close out of that, and I'll shrink the page down so we can see that it is still appearing. So let's just go ahead and copy this, but give it an extra small breakpoint where we'll change this to just 5 rem on the sides. All right, so if we go ahead and save that, flip on over, we see that now our images are tucked behind just a little bit more, and we no longer have the overflow going on. So now we don't have any horizontal scrolling. Our components here are looking great. Our marketing buttons are looking great. So let's wrap this up and finish up our call to action.